fight all my life long is not to enter into the system. It's not to accept the others, you know.
How's it going, people? Video homicide. Good to see you. Let me remove that. Boom. There we go. The right goddamn button. Thanks for being here. Look at this. One waiting. That's a first. Waiting. First to comment in the room, in the chat. Good evening, everybody. It's me, Comic Crack. It's Sunday, and it's time for a chat about what I've been reading this week. A few books to talk about. Some actually, unlike the usual bullshit we talk about here, some really good books to talk about this week. So I won't waste too much time. I will just say, kind of on our politics side for this week, I've been watching a lot of Al Jazeera English. They've got a YouTube channel that kind of, they do this cycle where they do kind of a couple of hours of a live feed. They've got some incredible documentaries on there. I was listening to one today, the history of Zionism, the history of the Zionist movement. They had a good documentary on just the history of Gaza and Palestinians in general. That was great to listen to. They've had stuff where they put together another documentary. This is one that I haven't seen yet, where they look at Israeli soldiers, and they go to their social medias and they show a collection of videos that the soldiers themselves have shared. That one looks incredible. I just haven't sat and watched that one yet. Honestly, that's one of those that, like, I have seen some of those videos on social media. I don't know if I can sit through an hour and a half or an hour of a collection of these videos. Now, it's not just simply like a mixtape version of that kind of thing. There's dialogue around it and things, but some of that stuff that's coming out of there is really harrowing. So I don't know if I can sit through that entire bit of content. And then to point you to the Ta-Nehisi Coates CBS interview, which was getting some play. That one kind of directly ties into comics. Ta-Nehisi Coates has worked in comics. I think did he work at DC or something? I don't know. I know that he did spend a bit of time writing comics. It's a really great little clip. And one of the things that he talks about is they sort of confront him about only representing the Palestinian side in his new book. And I'm completely blanking on the name. Darn, sorry. I should have had that ready though there. I can't remember. The Message is what the book is called. Apologies for that. I should have been more prepared on that one. The Message, and he has a chapter at the end where he talks about what's going on from Palestinians' side of things, and he gets confronted on, don't you feel bad that you're not representing the Israeli side? And he says that he has the fantastic answer of, you can get the pro-Israel side of the story anywhere. I feel like it's the other side that we're not getting. Yeah, that's how you say his name, isn't it? AFPC. Hello, AFPC. Nice to see you. Ta-Nehisi Coates. That's how you say it, right? Coates. That's correct. Yes. So I thought that was a really good little bit of an interview there. Good for him for speaking out. Free Palestine. Let's get into the books this weekend. I want to start off. It's good that you're here there, AFPC, because I'm going to talk about Okay, yeah, good. I'm sometimes not sure with some names, and I hate to. I try to do my best in saying people's names correctly. So, where's that other one? We have. Here we go. Sorry, the stacks are growing here in the Comic Crack warehouse of comics. So I wanted to talk a bit about Living the Line, AFPC. You had mentioned in our chat this afternoon. So Rasa and I did have a chat this afternoon live on my channel. You can go back and watch that if you so choose to do so. But I was talking a bit about Living the Line YouTube channel. It's funny because I had been looking at this book for quite a while at one of my comic shops here in town. This is The Exile by Eric Creek. And I'd been kind of flipping through it when Living the Line had talked about publishing comics. This was kind of high on that list. The first one, and it was said in the chat today, and of course I'm going to forget it now. Good evening for the love of comics. Really great to see you. Hello, good morning. Lefty, nice to see you. Yeah, Exile is really good. The Strange Case of Alex Raymond, I believe, was their first published book as Living the Line. Living the Line is a YouTube channel. They've been around for quite a few years. I've been subscribed to them for quite a while. They've just hit kind of a marker of 5,000. They're having a little contest where it's talking about them in social media. And you get entered into a draw for a kind of kitty potential prize pack. So this is this is me entering that, but also talking to you about these books. So I think it was the next day I'd picked this up, and the next day their video came out where they'd hit that 5,000, and they talked about that contest. Very strange coincidence there. So it got me kind of looking at their channel, and I realized I've missed quite a lot of videos in the past. One of the people that I love hearing from on their channel is Brandon Graham. He joins them, and they I believe they still do it, Formalism Fridays. And one of the things that drew me, I mean, I've been a big fan of Brandon Graham for a while. Let's just say that first and foremost. One of the things that I loved about the Formalism Fridays was kind of the breakdown of comics that they would do. And Brandon, one of his favorites is Matt Howarth. And if you've been around this channel, you know that he's one of my favorites as well. Let's do a plug for Canon Zine. I had an opportunity to interview him for Canon Zine. I'll try to put the link in the description of this video so you can go and pick up issues of that. And he showed some stuff from WARB where it was kind of holding the page up to the light so you could see kind of the subliminal messages. So there was some talk with Brandon Graham on their channel, and he talked about this Surviving on Mars, which is his diary comic that he's done recently. He's still producing comics. He's got a couple of new books out. This is one that I had heard about and kind of made a mental note of trying to make sure that I pick it up. So I'm sorry, not yucking anyone's yum, but Carson Grubaugh should change his name to Dunning-Kruger. Okay. So this is Surviving on Mars. So it's his diary comic. He's done this in the past. This is kind of the newest collection. And I finished reading it today, actually. I thought it was really fucking good, man. There's a lot of stuff. I think one of the things that draws me personally to storytelling is that kind of shared experience that we kind of have as humans, right? We're all in this ridiculous fleshy vessel, seeing the world through our own eyes. And I think part of reading other people's works, whether that's watching films, whether that's reading prose, whether that's reading comics, I think part of the excitement of storytelling is getting to see the world through someone else's experiences, This one, obviously, very directly, as this is someone's diary entries. And I think one of the things that makes this even extra good is that while not commenting on kind of the trouble that Brendan Graham found himself in, whether you agree with it or not, I personally thought it was a load of horse shit, but that's just my personal opinion. It's interesting to see him struggling with that. I found I identified with quite a bit of it in the way of I suffer from a lot of the same things. This kind of criticism that you get, it does eat at me sometimes. 90% of it doesn't, but every once in a while, there's some things that pop up that I just find it difficult to kind of let go, even though in the grand scheme of things, it's not something that is kind of earth shattering. I'm speaking for myself personally when it comes to dealing with the union office and my job. That's something that we had a union meeting this afternoon, and it does take me a little bit to build myself up to go. It takes a lot out of me when I do go there, as important as I think it is. It's why I go to the union meetings. It's crucially important to me, but it does take a lot out of me because I know who I'm sitting in the room with and I know how they feel about me. And that's fine. It's not that they can't feel how they want to feel. It's just not an easy state to be in when you're met in that situation. One of the best strips in here, the whole book is fantastic. Let me just say the entire thing, I really got a kick out of. Even the stuff where it felt a little whiny, I still kind of enjoyed, because again, you are reading someone's journal. It is kind of their thoughts to themselves. I know that there's a part of this that he's writing knowing that it's going to be published at some point potentially. So I think that kind of dictates a bit of the honesty, but I didn't feel like this was presented in a certain way that wasn't authentic. One of the strips that he shared on his social media that's included in this book is the piece to Ed Piskor. Again, something else we've talked about here. Again, you are very familiar with my thoughts on that whole situation. I'll see if I can find it here. You can find it on his Instagram as well too. But here's the page here. When I saw it on Instagram, it was incredibly powerful. It still retains its power even in this book in the context of everything else that's going on. You could probably argue that it has a little more of an impact because you're kind of on this journey with him. So overall, just an impressive piece of work. I love the kind of detail that you get both from his life, but also projects that he was thinking about doing. There's a really good one page where he was toying with the idea of writing a Matrix sequel. I'm going to see if I can find the page. As usual, I didn't mark any pages. He was toying with the idea of writing a Matrix sequel, and I thought his idea was really amazing. Here it is here. This idea that people who have something going on with them in reality tap into the Matrix to kind of live out how they want to be viewed. So people with missing limbs, transgendered people who can kind of represent themselves in this kind of Matrix world. It's a future generation from the ones we've seen in the movies. Just neat things like that. His time in the porn industry where he was writing, he wrote some porn parody scripts and worked on some porn production. He's friends with a porn actress, Izzy Wilde, who I'm familiar with, and kind of his kind of part in that world. Yeah, it's really good. It's really, really good, and it does make you think of a lot of things, and it is pretty easy to relate some of these things to your own personal experiences, even though they might not be directly the same as his in this book. So this is a pretty big recommendation. I thought this was a very, very solid read. Like I said, though, take that as you will, because I am a pretty big fan of his in general. Graham's fall from grace is unfortunate. The work hasn't suffered, it seems. Moonray, that's right. That's the other one, which I haven't read. Still looks stellar. Yeah, that's the other one. That was the one that I wasn't aware of. So, but it does look good. This reminds me of Graham's Walrus, a collection of half ideas and sketchbook materials. Very enjoyable. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's kind of in what this was is what this one is laid out to be similar to. Pardon me. His partner. Want to make sure that I get their name right. Casey Jones does the intro, and I believe, yeah, she talks about Walrus in the intro, saying that that's when she first discovered Brendan's work in her early 20s. So there you go. So that's Surviving on Mars. So this is the second printing of the Exile that came out a couple of months ago, I think. The first printing came out in 2023, February of 2023. Yeah, February of 2023. This second edition is August of 2024. Like I said, when they started announcing that they were going to be publishing books, I remember seeing some pages from this and instantly attracted to it. I'm super thrilled that a couple of our comic shops in town here are starting to kind of get in some of these comics from smaller publishers, even if they are kind of the bigger, smaller publishers, Silver Sprocket, Floating World. But I was genuinely surprised to see a Living the Line book on the shelves at this particular comic shop. This particular comic shop, it's Galaxy Comics. It's not that they shy away from independent work. It's just they're really about the Wednesday Warriors. They've got a whole section for Magic the Gathering, and there's a big card stock trading that goes on there when I go in there. And they kind of cater to a lot of the big two. Again, they don't shy away from independent. They've got a pretty amazing independent shelf, to be honest. But this seemed like something that was even a little further past that. So I'm really, really glad. So they had two books, or two copies of this rather, sitting on the shelf. And I'd been looking at it every time I went in and just couldn't really afford it, or didn't always had something else that I wanted to pick up instead. And this last time I was in, I figured that's it. I'm buying this book. And it was kind of an immediate read. As soon as I got home, I sat down and read it. When you're met with opening pages like this, it's really just gorgeous work, man. More of a Saturday soldier myself. Yeah, totally. I'm whenever I can get there type of soldier. So this is a Viking story taking place in Iceland. One of the interesting things about this book was its look at kind of their parliamentary type of maybe justice system that they had. In the beginning, he makes it very clear that, listen, this isn't supposed to be a historical document. This isn't supposed to be tales that you've heard before with people from history. This is a made-up story. For the most part, there's obviously going to be some real pieces thrown into it as well, but this isn't meant to be something that is historical in any stretch. The small criticism that I have, it did take me a while to kind of get to know who was who. We get our cast of characters right at the beginning. It wasn't that the drawings for the people were difficult to discern from one another. I found that kind of like the use of lighting in this one made some of the facial features not as easy to recognize for me at first. So it did take me a little bit to kind of figure out who was who. But again, that's more a me criticism than anything else. So I think it's great that they had that 2-page splash at the beginning there that sort of laid out who's who. It also divided them into kind of the two factions that are sort of against each other. So our main story is this Icelander who's been exiled for 7 years due to some things that he may or may not have been involved with. And I don't really want to say too much more than that, because that is a pretty integral part of the story, and it sort of develops over time. I do like the fact that you have a lot of gray area characters in here. There's not really purely good guys or purely bad guys in here. So that's something that's always going to be appealing to me. regardless of the story. But honestly, the art was the biggest draw. It's a gorgeous book to look through. And let me just make sure that I get credits properly here. Sean Michael Robinson and Eric Creek were involved in the English language adaptation. The English lettering was based directly on the Dutch hand lettering of Fritz Jonker. So I'm assuming that Fritz Jonker was the original letterer when this first came out. So that's also great to see that there's that much thought put into doing this translation, that they don't want to just use a generic font. They want to kind of keep it as close to what the original publication would have been by even focusing on the text itself. So really great read, really easy read. Like once you get into the flow of it, it moves really nicely. It's a very engaging story. It's beautifully illustrated, as you can see. Yeah, so that's the Exile. So those are the two from Living the Line. And then when I was looking on their website, they had a couple of other books. Let me just type it up. Living the Line. A couple of other books that one of our local bookstores here is McNally Robinson. It's Winnipeg based. It started here in Winnipeg. It's owned by Manitobans. It had a couple of locations here in town. There's one location out in Regina, possibly. So livingtheline.company.site/products is where you can find information on things that they've published so far. They have two books that I went to order through my bookstore. One called Her Frankenstein, pardon me, and one called UFO Mushroom Invasion. I think both of them, Canada, is Ryan Holmberg involved with both of them? I know he was involved with one of them for sure. Let's see if his name... I don't see his name on... Oh, yeah, no, there he is. So curated and translated into English by award-winning historian Ryan Holmberg. That is Her Frankenstein. I'll show you as we're going through here. Let's share a screen so you can see what it is I'm talking about. So this is Her Frankenstein. Kawashima Norikazu. Looks beautiful. Great cover. They do some samples here as well, so you can get a taste of what's involved inside. So Ryan Holmberg, then, I believe, is involved with both of these projects, which is fantastic news. Ryan Holmberg, kind of one of those guys that I think just his name alone gets people to buy books, even if they don't know anything about it, as is proven here by my pre-ordering both of these through my store. So that's Her Frankenstein. And then this is UFO Mushroom Invasion by Shirakawa Marina. And let's just double check. Is Holmberg's name attached to this one? Yes, it is. So both of these books are Holmberg as well, participating in the translation. This one looks fucking bonkers as well, which is great. So there you go. So check out Living the Line. It's just really exciting to see people kind of move forward and start publishing, and especially starting to bring books over. In one of the stream where they talk about getting the 5,000 subscribers, Sean Michael Phillips, I'm sorry, butchering people's names here. I want to make sure that I get everybody's name properly. Sean Michael Robinson. Sean Michael Robinson talks about the background in this kind of video where he's talking to the crew, and he says he reminded himself he had to not have the bookshelf behind him due to the fact that there's a lot of upcoming projects that are sitting on the bookshelf. that he didn't want to kind of spoil surprises for. So it's great to hear that they've got a lot of stuff lined up, and who knows how far into the future that'll get us. Yeah, translated by Ryan Holmberg is a stamp of quality, absolutely. Holmberg translated UFO Mushroom Invasion 2. Whether you're a DC or a Marvel head, we can all agree Who's Who was overall a better product than the official handbook to the Marvel Universe, right? I don't have a strong opinion on either of them. Yeah, so there you go. That's that. Now let's get into the rest of what I read this week. Why don't we get... what am I missing here? I'm not missing anything. I think I've got everything. Let's save those. Let's just continue with this. So 204 Comics, again, showing that some of my shops are really doing an amazing job of trying to dig in to small press. 204 Comics is one of my favorite shops in town. I love, it's a bit of a drive to go. Well, they're all a bit of a drive, but it's not really that bad considering what some people have to go through to get to their nearest comic shop. So this is something from Strangers Publications. This is the second print of this book as well, too. Pat Olizio is a name that I'm very familiar with through Yeah Dude Comics, which I think was his imprint. He's also had stuff at Birdcage Bottom Books. I've had a little bit of his stuff in the past. It never really kind of jumped out at me as comics that kind of blew me away. So what 204 Comics does is when they bring some stuff in new onto the shelf, it sits there for the month. Once it comes, whatever's left on the shelf, when it comes off, they start hacking the price. So it starts off by they knock $1 off of it and it goes into their back issue bins. So every once in a while, I'll dig through those bins, especially the independent section, just to see maybe what I've missed. Is there anything that catches my attention? Because I'll give it a try if it's a couple of bucks. And this one copy was buried in the box. And man, oh man, did I love this story. This was fantastic. In 1999, 3 inmates from the Cole County Correctional Facility escaped through a faulty ventilation system. The horror the inmates experienced behind bars was nothing compared to the terror that awaited them in their escape. Cole County outbreak. No disrespect, but I found that many of the Living Line videos, especially those heavy with Grubar's participation, make me feel like I'm being lobotomized. Just insufferable. Yeah, man. And you're totally entitled to your opinion on that. I absolutely understand that. I've had the opposite. I enjoy listening to them talk about books. And they've turned me on, like many channels. Ross and I were talking about it this afternoon. Again, one of the bonuses from these years on YouTube is the kind of books that get thrown in front of you by many different channels. So it's interesting to kind of see stuff that I might not otherwise know. Or, again, especially for me up here in Canada, there's a lot of these kind of independent and small press books that I just can't get up here. Although that's starting to turn a corner with shops taking chances on stuff, but also with that new Fantasy Club Books in town here as well, where he's specifically going for those ones, which is really great. I'll always remember Pat as the face of the Rub the Blood anthology Kickstarter. Yeah, man, Rub the Blood. I've got that somewhere. I don't know if was there more than one of them. My draw for that one was Bald Eagles, who, of course, his real name is I'm blanking on right now. He's done some work with Domino. I think there's a t-shirt now with his art on it as well. So this one was just such a joy. It was a little bit of a surprise. I mean, obviously, I didn't expect it to be kind of this historical document. I knew it would take some sort of turn or some sort of exploitation genre. Women escaping. Yeah, Victor Cairo. Thank you very much. Women escaping from prison type of yarn. But I didn't expect it to turn into kind of a full-blown horror story as well. The energy of the art is something that's really appealing to me. This kind of stuff really appeals to me. So they start making their way through this duct work to make their escape. And as they're going further and further, the ducts get smaller and smaller, so which is beautifully represented on the page by everything getting tinier and tinier. Beautiful. They fall through the duct and find this underground cave that's filled with some water and tons of these insects, and things kind of get horrific from there as one of them gets attacked by these insects and they bury their way into her body, which eventually have to find a way to escape, infecting everybody around them. So it just kind of gets more dark and horrific from there. So great, such a good quick read, so entertaining. Yeah, this is really amazing. And again, huge shout out to like Strangers Fanzine and Publications for putting out some books as well under their imprint. So it's starting to feel like there's a glut of small publishers and small press just kind of growing and growing. It feels like every year there's new small companies that are trying to either distribute comics like Domino, also getting into publishing. They do that themselves. And then small people that are just kind of focused on publishing, comic book stores that are kind of doing a publishing wing, Silver Sprocket, Floating World, etc. So well worth your time. Go to Strangers, and I'm sure that there's copies of the second print out there. Yes, yeah, for the Kickstarter, Pat basically parried Lifefield's Buttonfly jeans commercial. Delphinium was well paced, so that was another Pat Aluzio, I'm assuming there, AFPC. It's finally over. Hate Revisited issue number 4 has come out, which is the final in the Peter Bagge Hate Revisited, and exactly like I thought I would feel. I wish there was more. I wish there was another 20 issues of this. It feels like it's just starting to get going. It was off to a pretty rough start with issue number 1, but started picking up the pace with 2. And this one really, man, it's just, it really is like, again, the thing that I loved about the Bradleys and the thing that I loved about Hate, and his ability to kind of create all these characters and dip into their lives and give us a taste of where they're at and kind of look back into the past. This one is when Buddy and Jay first met. Jay's giving him some advice on how to get laid. They're getting high, listening to records. And then we kind of cut to the present, where we get introduced to Butch, Buddy's brother Butch, who's living with Jay as his kind of like on-site security. We find out that Jay has overdosed and is in the hospital, and kind of things go from there as Buddy goes to visit him. It leaves some things hanging with this story, so we get a sense of where things might go. Butch is being brought into a group of people who have all these, like our liberties are at stake. And Buddy's like, let me guess. So what's this guy's plan? Kidnap the governor, storm the Capitol. And of course, Butch says both, actually. But how did you know? Butch, you've got to get as far away from these guys as possible. But they're my friends. No, they're not. What am I supposed to do? Run away? Yes, for starters. So it's just great stuff. I want more. I want more, and I want more. So this was such a joy. And the inside cover, this young stretch pants story this month, had me pissing myself laughing. It's just completely over the top and absurd, and really, really funny. It's just really funny shit there. So, I mean, it's a shame to see it go. I hope that this is done well enough that maybe he considers doing some more. If so, I'd absolutely be on it. I would totally be on this. So really, really great. If you know Hate, if you know the world of Buddy Bradley, strong recommendation to pick these 4 up. If you don't know the world, if you've never read any Hate comics, I don't know if this is the greatest place to start. It's not bad. I'd say pick it up anyway. But I think you really sort of have to start from the beginning, because part of the biggest part of the enjoyment of these books is following these characters through their life, checking in with them at various times and seeing how things are going. So, I just grabbed my copy of Hate Revisited today. Nice. They didn't have Hate 4 this Wednesday when I went into the local comic shop. Oh, that's right, because you're still in the States. Where are you? You're in Iowa, Idaho. Where are you again? If you don't, well, if you want to share, you don't have to share, obviously. But I enjoyed 3, and we'll go back next week to see if 4 is available. Let me know if you can't find 4. I have an extra copy. I can always send you a care package. Let's just get to this one first. So no trace of Peep Show 15, though. That's a bummer. So I have an extra copy of Peep Show 15 as well, because it's one that I saw on the shelf and I bought a second copy just with the expressed interest of at some point sending it to somebody. So if you can't find Hate number 4, let me know what you're missing. Shoot me. You have my email. Shoot me an email with your home address. And I can put together a couple of books for you and shove them in the mail so you can get your hands on. Because honestly, Peep Show 15, like I was telling you in an email and saying this to everybody, Hate Revisited is fantastic. It's a really great read. But honestly, Peep Show 15 is just top tier. It's so good. Again, especially if you know Joe Matt and you know his comics. It doesn't miss a step, obviously, because of when it was, the time that it was created, and the length of time it took to finish one issue. It's just really, really great. So, so can a Bish get a Howarth interview via email, or is it a Comic Book Manifesto exclusive? No. I think he's doing. I think he does PDFs. Reach out to him. I'm sure he'll send you a PDF, AFPC. I'm sure he will. I think I've still got the interview on my computer. I'll have a look too, but honestly, shoot Colin a message. I'm sure he'd send you a PDF there, AFPC. Oh, hey, there you go. So there you have it. There's another offer for one as well too. I'll send it to Crack and he can pay it forward. Yeah, there you go. Okay. Speaking only of number 3, the stretch pant end papers weren't my cup of tea, but Buddy and Lisa visiting his family and the flashbacks to the 80s were terrific. Yeah, and I mean, if the stretch pants in number 3 didn't get you, this in number 4 definitely won't. I found them both really, really funny, just for their sheer absurdity and over the top ness. So there you go, Illinois. There you go, Illinois. Wow, that would be fantastic. I've really been looking forward to Peep Show like crazy. Yeah. Oh, okay. Offer left rescinded then for the love of comics. We'll sort something out. We'll make sure that you get copies somehow, some way. I'm sure he wouldn't. I don't know. I'd maybe try that again there, AFPC. Hate Revisited. What else were we going to get to? I mean, there's really almost no point in talking Precious Metal. You know that I love it. For somehow he's managed to get even better. This creative team, specifically Ian Bertram and Matt Hollingsworth, have somehow managed to improve their art even more. With this being issue number 5, there's one issue left of this. This knocked my fucking socks off. Like, look at this panel. Look at this page. It's gorgeous. They do this, they get into this almost psychedelic territory with the art in this one as the story starts to escalate and get more intense. We get some pages that kind of reach this psychedelic level with images, colors, and textures, but not in kind of the stereotypical comic psychedelia kind of way with Ditko-esque backgrounds and those sorts of things. Just really with textures. I was saying to Rasa today, there's some textures that I can, like images and textures that I can feel in my teeth. There's an album by the band Lard where it's this finger and it's got like this open little mouth on it. That gives me the heebie-jeebies in my teeth. I know that sounds bizarre, but there's things like this in here as well too, that I can almost like taste those textures, and they make me very uncomfortable. And when it starts dipping into this territory, that's where I start to kind of feel it. It's really a hell of a story. The visuals in this are really just next level. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like this. This is easily going to be my top book of the year. There's really no question about that for me. It's been an absolute joy. The story is great, but it's the art that's really mind-blowing. And I hope that, from what I was hearing, Travis Oddfellow's thoughts, Rasa was saying today that he was talking about when an issue drops, the original art from this comes out as well, and it sells out in about a half an hour. Every single page sells out within a half an hour. I hope that this team gets kind of the Brubaker Phillips treatment over at Image, where it's, hey guys, here's a contract where you can do anything you want, put it out in any format you want, go for as long as you want, and just give them free reign. These guys are knocking it out of the park. This relationship that Bertram and Hollingsworth have is just exceptional. I imagine that they're working really, really closely together. But I mean, obviously I could be wrong. I can't imagine that they're working that separate. Maybe they've had some conversations and it's reaching a point where they don't have to communicate anymore. But I imagine at some point there was quite a level of communication of what this was going to look like. And this is just so amazing. It's really, I've never seen anything like it. It's mind-blowing. Someone to call for theater tickets, someone to make up those cheap excuses. What we need is Lard. Classic band. Bearded Comic Bro, hello. Precious Metal is easily one of the best of the year. Yeah, absolutely. I would agree. Be sure to hit up Quimby's in Chicago at For the Love of Comics. I always go by Quimby's, which is amazing, but I also need to take a look in Chicago Comics. And a couple of other places people have recommended. Alley Cat is one place I've never been to. Yeah, Jello's a hell of a character, man. One of the best. Did Lard have some guys from Ministry to AFPC? Is that who else was in that band with them? My brother was more the industrial music fan, so I heard a lot of this stuff through him. What else did I read this week? One last thing that I read today, and I didn't realize it. One of my comic shops, the Galaxy Comics there, they missed out issue number 4. I started reading this, and I was like, I don't remember it leaving off with Ra's al Ghul in the previous issue. So when I finished reading it, I had to dig in the drawers. I do not have issue 4. I read this one anyway. This is the final issue of the Boy Wonder story by Junie Ba, colored by Chris O'Halloran, lettered by Aditya Bidkar. Are the names in the credits there? Yeah, Ministry and Dead Kennedys. Okay, yeah. So there's your credits there for this one. 5-issue miniseries. It's fine. It is a Batman book. It is a Robin book. So you take that as you will. You pretty much know what you're in for with it. I do really like Junie Ba's art, though. I thought it was really kind of just fun. There was shades of kind of Samurai Jack and Gendy Tartakovsky. That panel is a very good example of that. That really screams his style as well, especially the look in the eyes. Very kind of cartoony, which I don't have a problem with whatsoever. It is comic type books after all. The one thing that happens at the end of this is, this is a journey for Robin where he realizes that his power is in with the family and all of these kind of things. So we get that messaging about the importance of the family and the importance of working together as a team, which None of these are bad messages. Again, this feels like kind of a classic kids comic. But one of the things I found really impressive to see at the end is what's going on. One of the guys says, we're part of a collective, a union of people trying to help their community make sense of the system they're in. We all volunteer. The idea is that making a difference is worth more than making a profit. So some really good messaging in here as far as just kind of working collectively. It's things that we've talked about on the channel that I firmly believe in. We're only going to get things done together. Politicians generally aren't there to help us whatsoever. It is up to all of us. And I'm sure there's the comic bros out there that hate them damn politics in their comics. But this one really ends off on a very strong note of like, we've got to be a, let's see, where was it? Oh yeah, right here. This first song goes out to the ones who fall short and those who see the greatness in them anyway. Those who saw it in me too and helped me realize our collective strength. Thank you. Let's go rebuild the world together. So very kind of uplifting and positive message here to end off this mini series, and I got no problem with it. It was just a fun book. I don't know if I'd strongly recommend it to people. This is one I'm easily going to pass off to my daughter and see if she's interested in reading it herself, or maybe sit and read this with her once I get my hands on issue number 4. But a pretty fun read all around. And I think that's all that I read this week. There's a couple of things that I'm looking forward to digging into. One of them is Motel Universe number 3, another thing that I saw at Galaxy Comics when I picked up that Exile book. And this is from Secret Acres. Yeah, Secret Acres. Book 3 from Joachim Drescher, I believe is how you pronounce that name. I've started reading this. It's bonkers. It's really... It looks fantastic. I've never seen or heard of this creator or anything else within this so far 3 books. I'm assuming they're all hardcover books. I don't think these came out as singles, but I could be wrong. There's not much information in this book of maybe where this stuff originated from. So I'm assuming that it's all been created for this hardcover. But the artwork was an immediate yes from me when I pulled it off the shelf to look at it. Seeing that spine kind of caught my attention there. So I'll have to do some digging to see. I haven't looked on Secret Acres website yet, but I'd love to get my hands on the first 2 because so far, so good. We'll see what happens when I finish through the whole thing, but some really, really great stuff. Joachim Drescher. Is that it? There you go. Everything is always already unavoidably and irretrievably political. It's true. So looks promising. I'll report back next week, hopefully. And finally, the last book that I picked up is disappeared here. A great, amazing that it's completely vanished. Let's see, maybe it's under the stack. Here we go. Listening to some noise podcasts over the years. This is a name that I think it was on there was the one podcast where they were going to go through the Merzbow albums. It's now called Noise Extra. I think they still exist. I'd subscribed to them for quite a while and was listening to them pretty regularly. They had a couple of times where they talked about noise books and magazines, and this was one from Paul Haggerty, Noise Music, A History. And I've been looking for this for a little while. Now, of course, that I've got it in my hands, I see it everywhere. I think it's called Noise Extra. Yeah. But this one is one that I've wanted to check out for quite a while. Chapter 10 itself is just on Merzbow. They talk about kind of the early days of noise music, the first. They talk about, I think they talk about free jazz. I think they even dig into like prog rock and industrial music, power electronics. Of course, they have a chapter on Japan. They have a chapter on kind of sound art and collaging. And then there's stuff, there's some recommendations for things as well, too. They talk about Luigi Russolo at the beginning in the first chapter, who was an Italian guy. An Italian guy who was kind of a pioneer of what we now know as noise music, and his ideas, those early days of these experimental musicians, or these musicians bringing the sounds of industry onto the stage in front of an audience. So yeah, it's I'm really looking forward to digging into this book. I haven't read anything yet. It's sitting right beside me here, so I can maybe read a few pages or a chapter here and there when I have some time. The show that I'm on is winding down. We're in kind of our last week of work, is what it's looking like. So I should have more time in the coming weeks to kind of sit and start reading. You're there till election day. Well, good for you, my friend. Hopefully you can get out of the country come there. Oh, that book is excellent. Okay, I figured if anybody would know it, it would be you. You'll love it. Yeah, I'm sure I will. I've heard nothing but good things about it. I know that he has a follow-up book to this as well, too. I think that's also focused on noise music. I know he performs as well, too. I can't remember the name that he goes under when he performs. I don't think it says on the back. But yeah, he's written a couple of books, I think. I found one or two short clips of talks with him on YouTube. Again, I haven't sat and listened to the whole thing, but I highly recommend Itali's Noise, The Political Economy of Music. Okay, well then I will look for that right after this. And so I don't forget, I'll take a picture of that right now. Take a picture of both of those. And any of Matin's writing on noise and capitalism. Man, you're speaking my language. Where's the fucking cursor here? You're speaking my language, AFPC. Thank you very much for those recommendations. I thought I'd get the election results when I land in India, but I'm being told it will be weeks, if not months, before the final result. Can that be right? I mean, I've heard similar things too, like when they kind of do the final tally. I've heard things like they'll kind of know within 24 hours, potentially after the elections close. But I know that there's always a bit of a process. And I think that what they're expecting down there, AFPC might, or somebody else watching might be able to fill us in a little more, is I think no matter who wins, I think they're getting ready for some challengers to the election. So they'll have to do some recounts, and I'm sure there'll be all sorts of shenanigans that happen once the vote takes place. But it might take a little while for kind of like the official, but I think within that 24 hours of the polls closing, there should be a pretty damn good idea of who won. I'm just really curious if it's going to be a landslide one direction or the other. Yeah, we'll see. Dense and dry theory at times, but worth pushing through. The only way out is through. Yeah. And that's some of this stuff. That's the one thing that worries me sometimes about this kind of writing on these kind of subjects, that it's really writing in Aaron Bushnell. That's really kind of academic, and you do have to push through that to kind of get something out of it. Sometimes that academic language, though, can completely draw me out, where I just lose interest. It feels like you're over intellectualizing sometimes. Obviously, that depends a lot on the writer and the subject matter, but sometimes that can be a huge turnoff. Hello, Gorvidal. It's possible for the love of comics because in some states, election results can be challenged unless the swing states, which will determine the election, are overwhelming in one direction. Yeah, so that makes sense to me there, Gorvidal. Either way, it's going to be something. Good luck to you down there. Whatever happens down there affects us far too much here in Canada. So I don't know what to say. Good night. And we'll talk to you next week. Thanks very much, everybody, for hanging out. Nice to see you for the love of comics. Look at this. It's not, I forgot that you were still in the States. So it's nice. We're sort of on the similar time. Right now for me, it's 5 to 11 p.m. I think you're, what, are you an hour later than us? So there you go. AFPC, good to see you, man. It's been a while. Video Homicide, the #1 viewer tonight. Thank you very much. Gorvidal, good to see you as well. Who else was here that I missed? Lefty, nice to see you as well early in the chat if you're still around there. And we'll be back next week with more comics and all sorts of nonsense. Right on. Later, everybody.
Fight all my life long is not to enter into the system. It's not to accept the orders, you know.